Are you looking for a podcast where you can hear from real people regarding their real dental drama? If so, then you've come to the right place. Join hosts Bethany Petty and Dr. Rena Kuba as we dive into the solutions we've created and the mistakes we've made while managing dental drama. Let's get started. Okay, welcome back, Dad.
Well, thanks for having me, Bethany. Thanks for coming home for Thanksgiving.
I know. We're still sluggish from all the turkey, and how many times have we eaten turkey now?
Hopefully this is the last day.
Did we clear out the leftovers?
My gosh.
Well,
it may be in your car when you get home.
Don't you dare. We'll be feeding that to the neighbor's dogs if it is. So I have been on a rendezvous and record session is what I'm calling it. So last week I had the lovely Dr. Jones from Seattle.
Yeah.
And now I get to follow him up with Dr. Jones from Arkansas.
The old guy.
The old guy. But I'm still going to salt and pepper you with questions that Dr. Kuba has challenged me to take these annual reflection questions to other people because she hates them so badly that she said, stop asking me the questions and take them to other people. So you're the lucky one.
Here. Thanks.
So I wanted to spend some time talking with you about goals.
Okay.
I've asked a lot of the other reflection questions of other people, and I thought, hey, let's dig into goals with you in particular, because I feel like I can maybe press on some of your goals like I might not do with some other guests on the show.
I wonder why. Yeah.
So first of all, what are some of the goals? Do you have goals that you keep from year to year, or are there any from last year that you're planning to keep this year?
So there are some, like financial goals that may be pretty close to the same. Like at our office, we have, every year we try to grow some.
Yeah.
We're just at a point now where it's hard to grow a lot. So we have a goal of trying to increase production by, doesn't sound like much, but 5%. Mm-hmm. And so that's a goal. So as we're talking about professional goals, the office goals, and then of course goals that our cost is, we try to keep it at a certain percentage or low. So some of those are consistent from year to year. And then we have goals on, how many implants would we like to do this year? That's about the only one that we really we set goals where we're weak.
Gotcha.
The other goals, like the number of crowns that we do, we're just pretty consistent there of around 200 a month. Okay. And that's just always, so it's not like we have to set a goal there.
Because you just naturally are achieving that.
So we set goals in areas, which for me is implants. We'd like to do more implants.
Gotcha.
So clinically, that would be a goal. And then, of course, clinically, just become more efficient, find more tools, reduce cost if we can find, cost reduction. So that's just kind of sporadic shotgun, I know.
Yeah. Well, it's actually good because I'm glad you said your percentage that you aim for each year, because I get that question a lot as far as like what's the right number to aim for, and that can fluctuate. But in a big, you've got a lot of patients. Yeah. It's really, a lot of people think, I need to grow by 10% or 15. And that level of growth becomes unsustainable after a certain point. And so normally if you're looking for just kind of year over year growth, I always tell people somewhere between 3 and 7% is where you want to aim. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but when you do the math, 5%, even on $1 million practice is a pretty substantial amount of money. And so I think setting the goal appropriately and not just going, but if 5% is good, 10% is better. That's not always the case. And there's a lot of systematic changes that have to happen to achieve greater growth.
Yeah. Because if you're pretty much maxing out and you think you're as efficient as you can be, how much margin do you have for that? And for our practice, of course, the girls have a base salary, but then they have bonuses based on us reaching those milestones. So if you set that too high, then it has a reverse effect. Well, we'll never reach that, so why even try?
Yeah.
So it's a demotivator. So it's a balance. It's a balance there. And two, when I think about those financial goals, I really think, and it's hard to tell with this economy, but how much are our costs going to increase? And try to figure in there, okay, we can increase our production by this much, which is, it's a balance between it's achievable, not out of reach, and yet we're still making some money.
Yeah.
It's just it's a tough balance there, because you don't want to wear your team out. Because I could easily, my temperament is, let's go for 10, let's go for 15. And then what happens if you were like I am, then I set that goal, then I want to get that goal, and I'll drive them crazy, and I'll have people bail, and then what have I accomplished?
Yeah,
I've ticked off
shot
people.
Yourself in the foot.
Yeah. We're going for this goal, and now we missed it by 20% because you're such a butthole.
And you're dragging yourself across the finish line with guts out,
blood.
It's just not...
You don't have any friends anymore. You can never repeat it because you just...
It's true. Yeah, especially if you are that super goal-driven person, you got to be really careful with the goals that you set.
I think I'm getting better with age. Don't ask the girls at the office. I think I'm getting better with age because it used to be, I would think, well, why don't y'all want to work till 6 or 7 o'clock at night? I want to. Why don't you want to? But now at 72, at the end of the day, I was thinking the other day, I'm losing a step because I really don't want to work till 6 or 7 anymore, and I can understand why they didn't want to.
Just now that's setting in.
Yeah, it really has. Just this year, yeah. Huh.
There's hashtag goals for everybody out there.
Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like some goals you keep from year to year. What are some of the new things that you've potentially thought about as goals for this coming year? So here we are, right after Thanksgiving. I do think reflecting on the goals we've had is really important. This is one of my favorite times of the year for just reflecting. But as you have reflected, I know you already have started this process. How do you shift that into new goals? What are new goals that you plan to add for next year?
Well, when you think of, okay, we need to add 5%, where are we going to do that? And for us, one big, I think, would be more implants. And another thing would be efficiency of our time. Are we efficient there? So you just start setting some goals of, well, I'm not even really sure at this point. I just have visions of where I would want to be, like for the year where I would like for us to end up, and then you kind of backpedal or reverse engineer. How do we get there? So we'll have a new financial goal for the year that will be like 5% over next year, like this past year, and then for me it's a goal of, how can I help the teammates get better? Are there some weaknesses there that would make us more efficient? And I just, it's so funny that you asked me just yesterday, Bethany, to do this today. Thanks for all the heads up to think about it. But one of the days, I think it's not coincidental that one of the days this week, I just happened to be listening to Zig Ziglar. Wonderful Zig Ziglar. And he was giving a talk on goal setting, and that how goal setting is, really when you're setting goals, you're just painting a picture of what you want the future to be like. And he said something that a goal is an event or the person that you want to be that would not happen unless you did something today. So I thought, wow, that's really true. So when you run a practice, like when your leaders run a practice, the challenge is we have goals for ourselves, personal goals for the office, where we would like the office to be. But one of the things he talked about is most goals, for them to be effective, EFFIC, however that's spelled, to affect a person, AFF, they have to be personal. Mm-hmm. So we can have goals for our team members that mean absolutely nothing to them. They mean everything to us because they help us to achieve that overarching goal, whether it be financial. So then the challenge is the goal that I want for them. How do I make them want that goal?
Yes.
So that goal for them has to be effective. It has to affect their lives. So when you talk to your teammates, okay, this is next year, this is our goal. This is a goal or a dream I have for you. Bottom line, their thought is going to be, what's in it for me?
For me, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So that is the challenge, since I did thinking about it a little bit last night, is that really is a challenge for us as leaders to get people to buy in our goal, mm-hmm. because it doesn't affect them the same way, nor does it have the same effect on their life.
Right.
For us, it can mean a huge financial change in your life or addition to your life, but for them, it's really minuscule to what we get.
Exactly.
So one of the things that we do, and I think it's probably good, but we do a quarterly report. So we're just open. Everybody knows. So the staff doesn't know exactly who makes what, but there's a staff. This is what we paid the staff for this month or this period.
Gotcha. A total number.
And a percentage of everything. And then there's my number.
Yeah.
And I'm like, geez, I wish they wouldn't even look at that.
Yeah.
Because if I worked for me, I'd be ticked off.
Yeah.
I mean, this old man makes twice as much as all of the staff together. So anyway, but
it's
supposedly, what do you think? Supposedly, that's the way we have done it.
Yeah.
So anyway,
transparency.
Just for transparency, but for then for motivating and helping them set goals, I think they have to see that it's going to affect my family, and the only way it can, I guess, is financially. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you can just boil everything down to finances. What do you think?
Well, so much of the time it not always, and maybe not 100% financial, but usually that is what is striking a chord. What's interesting, and I feel like I've seen this change maybe over the last, probably since the pandemic, is the goals have changed more than I've ever seen in the last few years. So it used to be, I would say pre-pandemic, it was probably 85% of the people on the team were what's financially in it for me.
Yeah.
And not that that's not the case anymore. I definitely still hear that. It's just there's so much more in addition to that. Mm-hmm. So it's become financial, and I need this work-life balance.
Right.
And I need low stress. And I need a culture that I really buy into. And I mean, that sounds defeating as I say it, but the fact of the matter is,
I think I'm just quitting right now. I'm turning in my resignation. I'm not going to show up Monday.
Well, and it's frustrating because it used to be pretty simple.
Yeah.
Like, as long as there were financial rewards, people were relatively happy. And I think it's becoming a harder Rubik's Cube to figure out, like, what's the right combination for this particular person. I still think we throw a lot of eggs in the financial basket, especially I hear more now as I sit with staff members on the economy, how this is personally hitting them at home. And so I think it as awful as it sounds, that the economy may be pushing people back into primarily being focused by financial, but I've seen so many leave a practice for these other soft things, that the culture wasn't right, or I wasn't feeling personally satisfied. I felt like there wasn't room to grow in this position. And you're like, what? How did this happen? You're going to a job that's paying you the same, but it's in a different field and you feel like this is a fresh start for you. And so that's hard to compete with. But I do think, to your point, this is why we've got to spend time really thinking about the staff's goals. So as we build goals for the practice and the team and our dream of what we want, the people that are going to help you get there, their goals are important as well. And I know I can hear Dr. Kuba in my head as I'm saying this, and she's like cussing me out right now. But to me, you have to kind of pause and go, am I helping them to achieve their goals as a leader? Am I helping them to achieve their goals? And as much as I would love for those goals to be here,
this is a small part of their life.
It's a small part of their life. And so what else can we do to bridge that gap and help them achieve personal goals as well? And again, will that retain them? Who knows? Probably not.
Yeah.
But it's just, to me, the right thing to do as we set these goals for the practice, that we're also thinking about individually the goals for our team members as well.
It's just tough when you were saying it. It makes me think, I have this image in my mind that, I'm pretty easy to get along with, and I'm a great boss, and I love my people. But I found that when they leave, they don't even come back as a patient. So I'm thinking, I must not have had the relationship that so it's tough to bridge that gap of being the leader, boss, and loving nurturer, friend, whatever. But that's just the challenge of leadership. And like you said, people are going to leave for different reasons. And it probably affects me more than it does them. When someone leaves, like we're going to have 2 leave this year, not because they're mad at me, but one is leaving to go into another field. She's been in dentistry for 25, and she's just wants to try something else. The other one is retiring. So there's just a sadness deep inside of me, because these 2 women have been with me for 18 and 21 years.
Yeah.
So now we have to... Now the dynamics change, because new personalities come in there. And at first, when they started telling me that this would be the last year, I thought, I just can't
even function.
I just can't even handle it. I can't imagine practicing without them. But now that was temporary. But I had those deep feelings like, do I just go home too? Is it over? This
paralysis of like, what am I going to do without these people? And even if they're not, full-time, incredible, part of this leadership, and just the feeling of, this is my normal. These are my normal faces. This is, I don't have to over-communicate with them. We've got this dialogue that works. And so all of that, there is a loss there that I think practice owners feel way more than the employee themselves.
Oh, sure.
Feels.
Well, it's just like if someone's... I would rather be the first person going to visit someone and leaving, rather than being the person... Like you guys are leaving today.
Yeah.
We're going to be sad. Y'all look at me.
Yeah.
Looking in the rearview mirror going, good, we don't have to see them till Christmas. But anyway, it's a challenge.
It is. So one of the things that, as we're sitting here talking about employees and goals and all this, one of the thoughts that I had too, especially with yours retiring, is sometimes when we are a good leader and we've encouraged them and they are who they are and we've built them up and we've poured into them, sometimes that does lead them out the door.
I know it.
I
know it.
And you're like, well, dang, I was so good at making them feel like a hero that now they're going and tackling something else.
Yeah,
so.
You've got to be like one of our dental assistants this past year came to us and said, I really want to leave. A friend and I want to start a business. And we're like, you have mixed emotions. Part of me is, and what came in my mouth is, I'm so happy that, I want you to be your best. And inside, I'm like, Dad, come it.
Here we go again.
Because she was like, one of the best. But what are you going to do?
Yeah.
So she left. It didn't really work out. So she came back. And I think that was good for her because she was much more appreciative when she came back. It's like, I do not want to be a business owner.
Been there, done that.
I'm happy to come to work and go home and forget about all you guys.
Well, and so many times I'll sit with clients and talk about their goals for the next year. And I would say probably 9 out of 10 times they're like, just retain my employees. And, it really is. You just hope, like, can we just have 1 year without change? Yeah. And I think it's okay to dream about things like that. And I think we should have hope for that. We should work towards that without a doubt. But I think also we've got to constantly be building the backup plan of that's my hope and dream. And I'm going to throw everything I got at retaining my employees and keeping the culture right and the pay right and all of that. But at the end of the day, what are my subsequent goals of how do I weather people leaving?
Right.
And how can I prepare myself for that? So it's almost like goal setting's got to be dreamlike for sure, but then there's got to be this dose of reality. And if out of the last 5 years, every year you've had transition, let's plan on that and let's build a good goal for that.
I'm very fortunate in my practice that we haven't had a lot of turnovers. And I know I'm unusual, small town, and I hear of other friends and they just have turnover all the time. And I just think you're just in chaos all the time. So then it's hard to achieve your overall overarching goal for your practice when you're managing. You're down in the trenches and managing the warfare, and you lose sight of that. And I think your goals, you're right, have to be tied to your dream or your vision or the picture that you have for the practice. But if you're just missiles are being hurled at you, you're like, I can't even think about the dream because I may not be alive tomorrow.
Just bunker down.
Yeah.
Wait it out.
So it's tough.
Yeah. When you think through some of your individual team members, what are some of the goals that you, and I would imagine it changes based on the person, based on, the year, but do you find yourself kind of having dreams or goals for your individual employees?
Yeah, that they show up.
Yeah.
It's a small dream, No, I think for our practice, most of it is not, believe it or not clinical, because our hygienists and our dental assistants, I think all have great clinical skills. We can always improve. But I think for us, my dream is that we love our patients as much as I love our patients.
Yeah.
I just absolutely love them. And sometimes I'll feel kind of, we didn't really love them like we should. So I think, and I've said this before, clinically, I'm just average. But the way I love people, I think, is above average. And I think that's why people come back. I've said this too. If they feel like you really love them and respect them, they'll tolerate some mistakes or errors in judgment that you might make on some of their dentistry. So for my team, I think it would just that we would be more loving, maybe a little bit more aggressive for us in finding that for treatment that hasn't been completed.
Yeah.
I'll look through. We have reports, and I'll look through and I'll say, what about these people? So then and you might help me on this. I'll come up with all these plans and said, let's try this plan. And I know they're all looking at me and like, just go along with it. Just
do what he says.
Just go along with it for a little bit, and it's going to be gone. But we all have practices that there are just, like in my practice, millions of dollars sitting on our computer. So that would be a goal also, that we become more effective at reaching those treatment plans.
Yeah.
And something I would like to, I think that's probably the only thing that I think about or worry about is all these people that didn't say no on the day that we proposed the treatment. Then what happens to them? So I think a goal for me would be that the staff gets as interested in that. And again, how does that goal, if it's going to be effective, how does that goal affect them?
Yeah. Well, I talk about that with so many of my clients. I feel like that's part of the lost side of dentistry that I get kind of on a soapbox about is, we forget sometimes that we're in the patient advocate side, that this patient has a need. We're the only one knowledgeable enough to diagnose that need, to present a solution, to execute that solution. Their spouse at home isn't knowledgeable enough, usually.
Although they will have an opinion.
They'll have an opinion. They know nothing, but they'll have an opinion about it. They're not going to go home and advocate for themselves. They're not going to talk to their buddy, and their buddy's like, "Yeah, you got to do this. You got to go take care of that tooth, man." Yeah. There are no advocates out there. We're the advocate. Yeah. And I think sometimes we get so used to the no's that we forget. My job is to help this person to health, to optimal health. Yeah. And I think we forget the importance of oral health and dental health. And so we just accept that no. And I always ask people, I'm like, if you knew that somebody was going to have a heart attack in a month, would you be okay with just going, oh, they don't want to do anything to fix that? If you knew they had a cancer that was curable and they like, God, I'm gonna wait on that, think about that a little bit, would you not go after that person and pursue them out of love? Yeah. And we don't.
I like that. Yeah.
We don't. And so I think that's
because we take that rejection personally.
Yes. Yes. We don't want to hear the no.
We do not. Even though it really has nothing to do with us, there's something in our psyche.
Yeah. Yeah. I was listening to, there's a podcast called the Sales Gravy podcast by, I think it's Jeb Blunt. And he had a guest on that they do all the sales coaching. And their whole thing is you seek the no's. Because the more no's you get, you're that much closer to a yes, and you learn from those no's and you tweak your messaging and you figure it out. And I thought that was a really creative way to look at, and even like you're talking about these people that have walked out with a no, what can we learn from that? How can we do it better next time? Yeah. We must have not advocated well enough for that patient. So how can we, in the follow-up attempts, how can we learn more about that patient? And it's not, yes, does it help the practice? Yeah, absolutely. Sure. But to me, that's a side benefit.
Sure.
The main benefit is we've learned how to advocate better for that patient. And that patient's now going to be on their way to health because of what we did. Right. And you talked about financial. Yes, that's financially rewarding for the practice, but hopefully we've got a team of people that learns to view that as personally rewarding. Right. Like that they are a difference maker. And yes, it may be one tooth on one person, but we made a difference for that person. And I think that can be empowering if we speak that message enough to the team.
Oh yeah, there are cases, whether we're doing, like an anterior smile makeover or a denture, where our team is just as excited. They're so excited. And I do have a compassionate team, because there are cases where they need help. We can't afford to do it for them, and we just, the patient has to refuse the treatment because financially it's not available. And so they're compassionate and they're heartbroken for them. So
that's a good thing. Crew. Yeah, to experience the heartbreak of somebody not being able to do treatment, and we see it on both sides: excitement for being able to do treatment, and then the sadness when they can't do treatment. Well, and I think that kind of connecting that back to goals, one of the things that I don't think about enough is the change from our goals. I call it impact. So you were talking about, effect that it has. I call it impact. So to me, we've got to think through goals. Once we kind of dream a little bit and we start kind of prioritizing, how do I prioritize those goals? They should be prioritized based on impact. Right. How does this impact me? How does this impact my family? How does this impact my team, the community? What's the short-term benefits? What's the long-term benefits? And a lot of times we stop ourselves from going that far. We kind of dream the dream and we're like, yes, let's go get it. not really thinking about the long-term
Yeah.
impact of those around us.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that?
Well, there's, I think it was on Zig Ziglar's. No, there was something. Mel Robbins. Have you ever listened to Mel Robbins?
Haven't.
You have to listen to Mel Robbins. She has a great one. I was listening to her at some time, and I wrote this down, that she said there are two major components of goal setting. First is the will, which is the motivation, the emotion behind it. And that's really is what she also called the why. Why is this goal important to me? And she said that's how most people set their goals, because they're motivated or excited about whether it's making a health change or wealth change or whatever. They're motivated emotionally. But she was saying if it's just that, you might as well not make it at all. So the second part of that was, so the first is the will, the second is the way, which is how. Mm-hmm. So that is, what skills do I need to develop to reach this goal, this dream? What plan do I need to implement? What education do I get? And she said that's where it all, that's the magic. Because we can dream all day, but like you said, and the thing that I never thought about with setting goals, the basic question is, what behavioral changes do I have to make right now? Today.
Yeah.
To reach that goal. Otherwise, I would already have that goal if I already had those behavioral changes.
Yeah.
So goal setting is really all about behavioral change. Mm-hmm. Which in Ziegler talked about, why do people not set goals? He said because they don't know they need to set them. And one of the things that he talked about is fears, that there's friction with setting goals, because you've got to change this old behavior that served you well up to now, but now I've got to leave or change some of this behavior. So there's fear and there's friction of making that behavioral change.
Yeah.
So I think that's why. So then when you're thinking about setting goals for your staff members, you're basically asking, okay, what behavioral changes do I need to see in them?
Right.
And they may be perfectly content with their behavioral change. So you have to help them dream and see that the friction that they're going to run into in making this behavioral change, that there's an end result, that it's worth the effort, it's worth the fear, it's worth the friction.
Yeah.
So I thought those were really good from Mel's, the will, the why. Why? I'm not just set a goal just to set a goal, but then, okay, how? How do I get there?
Yeah. And the planning is the hard part.
Right.
We spend a lot of time dreaming and developing these goals in our head. I think the hard part...
But it's fun.
It is.
It takes no energy or the risk.
No. As a matter of fact, it can force a little bit of daydreaming.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit of, let's sit down and mull on this. And we just want to stay there in that ethereal state.
Yeah.
And the real work is developing a plan for how am I going to get that goal, and what do I have to do today, tomorrow, the next day. And a lot of people tire out on that. And you don't have to do that alone. I think that's the beauty of dental practices is sometimes you may not be the best at executing a very clear plan of what do I need to do, what needs to happen. But oftentimes you've got team members that if you were to sit down and go, hey, these are 3 of my dreams for the practice. Let's talk about this.
Yeah.
What can we do? What do I need to do?
Yeah.
And sometimes when you surround yourself with people that are maybe better at thinking through the strategy, you can come up with a really good plan. And I like when those plans have deadlines.
Right.
Because oftentimes if it's just, okay, well, the next step is this, and I can do that in a week, or I can do that in a year, or I can do that, then human nature says it's not important without a deadline, right? If work was always you show up when you feel ready, can you imagine what time people would be showing up? So we work well off of deadlines. So once you build this plan, then you put the deadlines to it, the goals, dates to it as well.
Yeah, because without a timeline, it's just daydreaming again. It's just dreaming.
It's just dreaming at that point. So
And one of I think it was Zig Ziglar said, you just need to break it down into steps. They're just not overwhelming. He tells the story of that he had a 41-inch waist and was 55 pounds overweight, and he had just written a book where he had dreamed, or he was saying in his book, I weigh 165 pounds, I have a 34-inch waist. And so he said, well, I can't deliver speeches and sell my book, and I'm 41 pounds and 55 pounds overweight. So he set a goal then, just a daily goal of this is what it's going to take in 10 months. And it's not so scary then. But I think if you don't do the plan, the hard work of planning, then the dream also becomes overwhelming. Goals also give us a direction. Without a direction, without goals, we might have a dream, but really we don't know how to get there. Right. So we might even be heading in the opposite direction and not be aware of it because we don't have any goals to say, oh yeah, I'm one step closer. So goals also give us direction. I think they make us feel accomplished. We feel good about ourselves. So we accomplish one goal, which encourages us to accomplish. And then you kind of have a snowball effect. You get some momentum going. But it's always the first step is the hardest.
It really is. And I think when we can do that, and then we get excited about those goals and achieving them, we can also incite excitement on our team as well. I think nobody wants to be in an environment that we never achieve, or man, we talked a really good talk, but we didn't take any action. And that comes from leadership. It's like, no, we got to have a really clear goal, maybe even one that has been fabricated with the team, and then we're holding ourselves accountable, because that's frustrating to get to a point where we've got this really good idea that everybody's adopted,
right?
But we're not taking action,
not implementing,
and then it just becomes frustrating.
Yeah.
Then we shouldn't have built the goal in the first place.
Yeah, because then trust is lost, confidence is lost. Why should I follow you anywhere? I mean, on any, they're okay on this adventure you're right now, but if we want to expand that adventure, I'm not sure I want to go with you, because the last adventure you told us about and we got excited about, we did nothing. Yeah. Thanks so much.
Then it just made me feel bad about myself, Yeah. It's just... Yeah, I think the hardest part is just breaking it down into manageable bites. And sometimes goals are huge, big picture.
Right.
One of the examples that I put in my annual reflection is writing a book. And so a couple years ago, that was my goal. I wanted to write this book about our kids' adoption story. And so that was my goal. I wanted it done by this particular point. And it was... writing, I set aside, okay, this is how much per week, and I work full time, so I knew to make that very manageable. I think it was like 2 hours a week. I'm like, I think I can get that done in the evenings. But then also there were 2 getaway, go to a cabin in the woods writing sessions that I put on the calendar, one in the spring, one in the fall, and those were going to be reflection, for just because I'm big about reflection, and then reflection and writing. So both of those, it was that second one that actually finalized the book. But it was planning everything out for that year, because it was a 1-year goal, and how much time it was going to take, how many pages, did all the research on how many pages it was going to need to be published, and all of that. So that was the hard part. Yes, hey, great, I want to write a book. Let me think about that for 2 years, or let's put together a very detailed plan. And some of those were big steps, like the 2 weekends away, but the rest of it was just small weekly commitments that I made to myself. And so I think small weekly things or small daily things that we can do. And yes, there may be periodic big pushes that you have to make. My team's not great at being compassionate with the patients, but I've found this really great course.
Right.
And that's happening, in the summer. And so we're going to do all of these things leading up to that course, but then I'm going to make the financial investment to take them to that course.
Right.
Okay.
Sounds good. Yeah.
One big push, but you're doing things leading up to that. You're not hanging all your hopes on that one.
On one event. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're creating, when you're doing that incrementally, you're also slowly creating behavioral change. It's not like, okay, I want you to stop drinking tomorrow.
Right.
But you may have a plan of over the next whatever. So, yeah, if you kind of sneak behavioral change in incrementally.
Yes. Yes. And lead out with that change
Right,
yourself.
yeah.
And then, I mean, thinking of that example, if you've got months of that with your team and then you're dropping them into a course, they're going to be primed and ready for
Otherwise,
that.
they're going to be like dropping them into hot water like, what have you gotten me into? Is this a cult or what?
What'd you do this for? Oh, any other thoughts that you have on goals or reflections?
Let's see if I've written anything else down.
Yeah, what are your other tips?
Oh, I liked this. Making a goal affects our outer world, but it begins in our inner world. Begins inside. And I thought, yeah, I really like that.
It's motivated by self-change first.
Yep.
And then it should have impact.
So I think the two things that I wrote down, I think which is good for all of us. Okay, the why. Why do I want to change? And why now? And then how. So why do I want to change? Whatever, whether it's personal or the practice, why do I want to change? Why is it important now? And then the goal setting steps. How am I going to do it? Do I seek help, or is there education? How? How do I make those steps?
Yeah,
and your team can help you do that.
I was about to say, and lean on people.
Yeah.
If you're stifled by like, I just don't know what is the how, that's where you reach out. You reach out to your team. Or I've got a colleague right now that just practice is super stressful. She reached out to me, said, hey, can you connect me with a couple of other moms that have done this? I just need to hear from people. I love that. Like, yes, there's a community of people out there. Go get your support so that you can build a good plan.
I know I've shared this with you before, but I'm just at a point where I rely so heavily on other people in our office that really I am, other than just being the clinical person, I'm probably the least important person there. Now, I'm the greatest person with compassion and love because that's just who I am. But as far as all of the other details, they just handle it all, which makes it so much easier for me to be myself and to just have fun and talk stupid stuff with the girls. Will say, I don't know how you talk to these people this way, because we'll just talk about anything. Oh yeah, you married a prisoner, how's that going, and then they'll tell me, this is how we fell in love, and they're like,
and you're on the edge of your seat as you're doing this dentistry, right?
But so it's kind of neat to have. I really understand now at 72 the importance of team. I think I always have, but when you're younger, you always think it's all about you.
Yeah.
I mean, now when you're old and you have trouble showering or whatever, so it's kind of great to have that team. But still, every team, as good as mine is, I can still ask those questions. What changes do I want now? Because you don't want it to stay the same, because your employees, your staff will get tired, you'll get tired. So I think change is important just for life. Life is all about change.
Yeah. That's what we want to be a part of.
Yeah.
Human nature. Yeah.
So anyway, that's it.
All right.
How'd we do on time?
We perfect.
Did we nail it?
I mean, of course.
Are you coming back at Christmas?
Yes.
You want my Christmas list? You come back. That's it.
There we go. That's it.
Love you.
Love you.
Thanks for joining the conversation today. We hope that you are comforted in knowing that you are not alone, but we also hope that you're walking away with some really great tips and tricks to try in your practice. We value your feedback, so please take a few moments to rate and review the podcast. Finally, we want to make sure that we're covering the topics that matter to you. So track us down on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and let us know what topics you want us to cover. As always, please know that we are rooting for you today as you manage your dental drama.